My sister was born in the year 2000.
Yeah.
So it's easy for her.
Good morning, FHS. Today is Monday, April 1st, 2024. Would you please join me in a minute of silence? stand if you are able and join me in the pledge. Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today we're going to be conducting the evacuation drill at 9 a.m., so please wait for instructions. Thank you and have a great day.
All right, good morning, guys. So luckily, we don't have too much on our agenda today. When I saw you guys on Friday, I gave you some time to finish up the 3.4 bookwork, but more important than that, I gave you a practice quiz, which was the 104, 3.3, 3.4 worksheet 1. So that should have given you a good idea of where you stand. And again, we kind of drag our feet here a little bit to make sure everyone has time to get caught up, especially with section 3.4, since it can be a little bit harder and take a little bit more time for some people to feel comfortable with it. But we also need to move on. So on Wednesday, this is a B week, so I will only see you one more time this week. On Wednesday, we will actually have the 3.3, 3.4 quiz. It will be no calculator. It'll be most like worksheet 1. Really, the only difference between worksheet 1 and worksheet 2 is worksheet 1 had some multiple choice questions, whereas worksheet 2, you can see the first few questions are fill in the blank. But you shouldn't be leaning on multiple choice anyway, because the test may not have much, if any, multiple choice. So I doubt that you heard the end of that announcement, but we do have bus evacuation this morning, and they're going to start that around 9 o'clock. I have no idea if it'll be the first group, the last group. I don't know. But as you guys know, that stuff doesn't take but about 10 minutes to get out there, hear the speech, and come back in. So it shouldn't mess you up too much with today's agenda. So if you would, go ahead and number your handout is 105, and this is the last practice opportunity that I have for this. So if you really need to give this your best effort, really try it without notes and without a calculator. See how you do. My website has the answers to the first 5 or 6, the short answer ones, and for the rest, you should check with your calculator. Similar to the book assignment, I could say here are my 6 or 7 answers, but if you approach it differently, your answers could look different and they could still be correct. So that's why I don't like to say here are the solutions to those last 6 solving equation problems. I don't want to make you think that you're not doing it correctly if you are. So based on that announcement, it sounds like they're starting bus evacuation at 9, but again, I don't know for the first group or the last group or somewhere in the middle. So we'll just go ahead and just assume or move forward, and we'll just deal with it when it shows up. So with this one, I will take any and all questions that you have on worksheet 2. But again, with the bus evacuation, I'm just going to kind of play it by ear. I'll glance around the room a few times, and once it looks like everyone's finished with it, I will give you guys a chance to speak up and ask questions. One last reminder before I shut up and let you work here. Remember that we will still have a 3.3, 3.4 test also. So Wednesday is just a quiz, so you'll get some feedback about how you're doing. But Wednesday of next week will be the 3.3, 3.4 test, and that will be a 50-point major assignment. So ideally, you learn what you need to learn and get all caught up today, and then you should do well on the quiz, and then you should not need to review or study much for the test, and you should do well on the test. So just make sure you're putting in your best effort for that. Okay. Any questions about our agenda this morning? Okay, go ahead and start on that then, and then we'll play it by ear and wait and see when our turn for bus evacuation is.
Teachers and students, please pardon this interruption. We are going to now start the spring bus evacuation drill. Phase 1, or Phase 2, 3, and 4, third floor. Please make your way to Bulldog Boulevard for the bus evacuation. Again, third floor, the bus evacuation drill is being held on Bulldog Boulevard. Please make your way there now. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I respect that. I don't know where that came from. No, I do actually know where that came from. Oh no, that
He's got offer. He got offer from Georgia. He's 6 foot. We're playing this guy before. He's 6 foot, 195 pounds. But honestly, the receivers aren't that good.
Their whole lines go like that. They got a freshman that's 6'2".
I'll be back for that game for sure.
Like, why aren't you
I had ACL surgery.
class of 27, 6'6",
Okay, I'm gonna give you guys 15 more minutes here, and then it looks like we got time to go over the whole thing. So I'll go over the whole thing, but try to be finished here at 9:30. That's actually 18 minutes. So.
Teachers and students, please pardon this interruption. We are going to continue with the bus evacuation drill with phase 2, 3, and 4, as well as arena and PAC buildings. Please make your way to Bulldog Boulevard, second floor, phase 2, 3, and 4, arena and PAC. Make your way to Bulldog Boulevard. Thank you.
Okay, just about 5 minutes, and now I'm going to start going over it. All right. All right, so I'm going to start to go over this to hopefully help out a little bit more. So please make sure you give me the appropriate attention for the questions that you need. And of course, this is the last practice before your quiz. You'll get a tiny bit more practice before your test, but please circle the questions you struggled with so you know which ones you need to study. Okay, so when we started class, I said your quiz will be more like worksheet 1 than worksheet 2, just in that the first few questions are multiple choice. So I don't know why we did that multiple choice on worksheet 1 but not worksheet 2. But that's important because change of base could have 2 answers written there. It could either be written with common log or with natural logs. So you have to know both of those so that whichever way we present it in multiple choice, you'll recognize it. Okay, and part of this quiz is section 3.3, so that's going to be about expanding, which is question 2, and condensing, 3 and 4, and then one more expanding, number 5. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all about section 3.3. So to expand, you first need to deal with this square root. Don't pretend like it's not there. You need to change the square root to an exponent, because then properties of logarithms, that exponent can come down out front, and that's good because it gets it out of our way, and now we can carefully expand. Division will expand with subtraction. So log base b of x over y would become log base b of x minus log base b of y.
Students, teachers, pardon this interruption. Let's do floor 1, phase 2, 3, and 4 for the bus evacuation on Bulldog Boulevard. Again, if you're on floor 1 of phase 2, 3, and 4, please make your way to Bulldog Boulevard. Thank you.
Okay, and then of course this was 1/2 times all of this, so when you expand it, it's still 1/2 times all of this. So you can either put parentheses or you can distribute it and put a 1/2 in front of both of those, whichever you prefer. But if you don't deal with that square root first, it's not going to work out well for you. Otherwise, there's only 2 ways to expand. Division expands as subtraction, multiplication expands as addition. Okay, and then the condense, so I'm actually going to jump to question 4 first because that's undoing what I did in question 3. These are both log base 3, so I can condense them into a log base 3. Since they were separated with subtraction, I could condense them with division. And technically that's correct, although I would prefer if you simplified this. 54 divided by 9 should be 6. I would prefer if you did 54 divided by 9 since that comes out to a nice whole number. But technically if you leave it, it's still correct. If the directions say simplify, then I guess you would miss the point. But okay, the only other way to do expansion is expand addition into multiplication. But if these numbers are out front, like the 3 and the 5, just like I dealt with the square root to start off here, you really need to deal with the 3 and the 5 here. So the 5 can come up as an exponent, the 3 can come up as an exponent, and then addition condenses to multiplication. So in the end, for that one, log base 2 of a to the 5th times b to the 3rd. Now, by the way, you can't and shouldn't try to bring down the 5 or bring down the 3. 3 is an exponent on part of what you're taking the log of. 5 is an exponent on part of what you're taking the log of. But if you brought one of those down, it really means it should go to both of those. So there's no exponent to bring down there. These are unique. Okay, and then expand. So this is, again, the more classical example. I put one of these in your notes. You had one of these in your practice quiz. I know these used to show up on the ACT like this. So I would say very high chance this type of question is going to be on your quiz and your test. So at first it doesn't look any different. You've got division inside of a log, so you could expand that as subtraction. then this looks a little bit different because this can actually go further, whereas most of the time we just let you quit right there. So these are being multiplied, so I could expand those with addition. Okay, you really should bring down the coefficients, I'm sorry, the exponents as coefficients, but the part that I'm concerned about here is what I glossed over again. This was minus all of this in red, so when you expand it, it still has to be minus the whole thing. It's not all of a sudden magically just subtracting the first half of this and then adding the second half. So you could either leave parentheses, so this is perfectly fine if you want to leave parentheses, or you have to distribute the negative, and this should not be a plus 3 natural log of z, it has to be a minus 3 natural log of z. And of course, if this is a multiple choice question, like it was on worksheet 1, one of the distractor answers is probably going to be the exact correct answer with this wrong last sign. So now maybe you feel a little bit better about that, but it seemed like that was something that most people kind of missed when I had you try that in the notes originally. So make sure that you mark that if you're still making that error. All right, and then finally, last one from section 3.3. Again, if you could do the others, I don't know why you can do this one, but similar to question 4, you can bring these coefficients up as exponents, and then subtraction is going to condense as division. X cubed came first, so it's the numerator. X minus 3 squared came second, so it becomes the denominator. Now, by the way, I know we kind of gloss over this because it wouldn't be interesting questions, but they do have to be the same type of logs. If this was log base 3 and this was log base 4, you could not condense. They have to be the same type of log to condense. Okay, so those questions all have to do with section 3.3 plus change of base. Is there anything you would like to clarify about 1 through 6? Okay, then the last 6 questions, these are like questions from section 3.4, and these vary in difficulty. This is also probably where you need to spend the most time reviewing. Just on average, these are the ones that give students the most trouble. So I would say of all of these, number 7 is probably the hardest one. So again, you need to make kind of a flow chart to yourself. I personally think about the notes. Some we could do in our head. Most questions we switch to forms. Sometimes we expanded or condensed. Sometimes if it looks a certain way, we could only factor. Some questions were just kind of set up where we could just make the certain parts equal, like we did in section 3.2. And when none of that stuff works, like question 7, pretty much your last tool that you should be getting out, because it's needed here and it's not needed anywhere else. The only way to move forward on this one was to take the log or natural log, doesn't matter, of both sides. As long as you do it to both sides, it's fine. And the reason why this ends up being helpful is now this is an exponent on something I'm taking the log of. It can come down out front. X plus 3 is an exponent on something I'm taking the log of. X plus 3 can come down out front. Now again, if you take the log of both sides, your answer is going to look a little bit different in the end than natural log. This is why your answer still may be okay, and you really need to store your answer in your calculator to see if it works. But this still has a few more steps, but it looks more complicated than it really is. Because natural log of 2 is just a number, and I could distribute the number. If I'm trying to solve for x, I want all the x stuff on one side, all the other stuff, all the number stuff on the other side. And now I guess I would be concerned about this step, because this is one, even my calculus students struggle with this. It's one of the easiest algebra things you've ever learned, And you can do it when I tell you what to do, but if you're taking calculus next year, you got to put in a little bit of effort to notice. You know, if this said 5x minus 4x, of course I could do that in my head. I would just combine like terms. But this is some number of x's and this is some number of x's. The best thing that you can do is to say they both have an x, so let me factor it out like a GCF. Again, I know you can factor GCFs, but as you guys move into calculus, if you don't see that as a step to try, then you get stuck there. Finally, undo times with divide. That is one possible solution. Again, I can't begin to list out all of the different answers that would still work. If you got a different answer that you think works, store it in your calculator, put 3 to the x in your calculator, get some number, put 2 plus x to the third, x plus 3 in your calculator, make sure those numbers are the same. Make sure it makes the left and the right side the same. And if it's not, then you need me to look at it before you go for the day. But I would say that's probably the hardest one to start off, because again, most questions you don't have to do that, but when you need it, you need it. So that could be one that you need to review. Okay, whereas question 8, I think probably has a little bit easier start. Do anything that's going to make your life easier, like subtracting 12 from both sides, dividing both sides by 2. You know, that's not logarithm stuff. At some point though, I think on worksheet 1, all 6 questions you had to do this. We didn't have to do this on question 7, but most of the time you need to switch it from exponential form to logarithmic form, or logarithmic form to exponential form. And then to go from 2x equals to just x equals, divide both sides by 2. So one possible answer would be the natural log of 18 over 2. Now again, if your answer looks different but you think it's right, check it in the calculator, check it by storing. Now even though you won't have a calculator on the quiz, you can still reasonably check some of these questions. So I'm only going to do this on this question just to spare you here. But if this is the original question and it's supposed to equal 48, I should be able to plug this in everywhere there's an x, and then we can evaluate this and see if it equals 48. It's not as bad as it seems. Times 2 divided by 2 cancels. This is one of those log properties from 3.2 that we made you memorize, so if you still remember it, e to the log base e of 18 would be 18. And we end up with 36 plus 12 is supposed to equal 48, and it does equal 48. So some of these questions like this, if you're willing to plug them in and spend another 30 seconds, you can be sure that it's correct like that. Some of them I understand is kind of hard, but a lot of these are pretty reasonable. Okay, question 9. I would say the hardest thing about question 9 compared to question 8 is this one has fractions. So if you multiply both sides by the denominator, now it no longer has fractions. So if fractions are what you think is the challenge there, just multiply everything by the denominator, kind of like we do with complex fractions, and then you have a new statement that doesn't have fractions. Now it's like question 8. We could subtract 2 from both sides. We could switch the forms, although I will warn you that you guys are used to taking the form in this way. I just switched these two. So the form would be log base e of 4 equals negative x. Log base e is the same as natural log. And then undo this by multiplying both sides by negative 1. That would also be a pretty easy one for you to, yeah. You're right, I didn't distribute. So I was actually thinking, I was about to say you could plug this in and check, and when I was doing that over here, this left me e to the natural log of 4, which would be 4 plus 1 is 5. 6 over 5 wasn't 2. So I knew I had a mistake by doing the actual check, and you're correct. Thank you. I forgot to distribute this 2. So this should have actually been a 2, which means this is a 2, which means my answer should be negative natural log of 2. Now when I plug it in, this goes to 2 plus 1 is 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I didn't do that on purpose. Sometimes I do that to see if y'all catch it, but did not do that one on purpose. But again, I was able to plug that in and see that it wasn't going to give me 2, so I was able to catch it. All right, question 10. I'd be very surprised if you didn't have at least one of these, because this is just a good opportunity for us to show you where expanding and condensing can do some different things for you. So we could condense these with division, since they were separated by subtraction. For the third question in a row, it's in logarithmic form or exponential form. So you probably want to switch the forms. Of course, 5 squared is 25, so I'm just going to change that. And again, it's still got a couple steps, but the logarithm steps are over. We could multiply both sides by x, so there's no more fractions. We could take away an x from both sides, and we could divide both sides by 24. That one would be kind of hard to plug in and check. All right, so far, I haven't worked this worksheet again this year. You guys are my first pre-calc class, so. But this is 3 of the first 4 questions where I've needed to switch the form. If you don't know how to switch the form, or if you're not actively looking to switch the form on these, then that's not going to pan out well for your quiz. All right, next to last. So now it's a little bit more repetitive, it looks like. I can undo the easy stuff, like undo times 4 with divide 4. Another question where you should switch the forms. And if you know what 2x equals, just divide both sides by 2 and you know what 1x equals. That would be an easy one to plug in and check too. All right, and I will give you a chance if there's any of these you want to ask about in just a second, but to finish up, very similar question. If you're not remembering where this e is coming from, if you're not feeling that comfortable with natural log still, I mean, I hope that you are, because we're about done with logarithms, but remember, natural log just means log base e. If this seems easier, then just take one step and change it. Okay, and then for the 5th question in a row, switch the forms, and then you're almost done. Undo a plus 3, undo a times 2. That one would also be pretty easy to check if you manually plugged it in. So there's some stuff that's more likely to be on your quiz. Switching forms showed up in like 11 of the 12 questions that were solving equations between worksheet 1 and 2, so you should expect a bunch of that. Worksheet 1 had a factoring question. This didn't. So it might be on the quiz, it might not be, but you need to make sure that you're prepared for it. Both worksheet 1 and worksheet 2 had you do some condensing to be able to solve, so I would be prepared for that. Both of the worksheets gave you a question where you started off with the fraction and you should get it out of the fraction, so I would be ready and prepared for that. Worksheet 1 did not have a question like this on number 7, where you had to start off by taking the natural log of both sides. But if it was on one of the worksheets, it might show up on one of the quizzes. So you need to, at the very least, have that in your brain as a tool that you could try when nothing else is working. Okay, I think that's all I needed to say about it, but is there any of these you want me to put back up? Any of these you want me to explain again? Or any of these you have questions you'd like to get clarified? All right, well, you've got about 20 minutes. So if you don't feel like you're ready to take the quiz, you've got 20 minutes to start studying. I'd already asked you to turn in 3 of the assignments in the Google Classroom before today. The last one that I need before the quiz is 105. So you can do that for homework, or you could just do that right now. Turn that in the Google Classroom, please. And I think everybody would benefit from studying or reviewing for at least 5 or 10 minutes. So you might need to add that to your to-do list so you don't forget about that. Last time I see you this week is Wednesday, and that will be the 3.4 quiz. If y'all do find any questions, again, you still have about 20 minutes, so I'll still be happy to help, but you got to bring it up here for me to look at.